Welcome back to Chit Chat, and with me, it's the Rojas family. Last week we had such an awesome session, very inspiring and educational. We had many excellent reviews, and so we are here today. Welcome, Josanne and Dion. Today it's about love, marriage, the bedroom, a bit of romance, and the impact of God in their spiritual life. So welcome, Josanne and Dion, to Chit Chat.
Thank you for having us.
All right, first, I want to start from a very spiritual standpoint, and I would pose this question to Josanne. What led you back to church? Let's talk about that.
Okay. Well, I grew up in church. I'm one of those persons that grew up in church and was very eager to experience the world day after. And I stopped going to church for quite some time and was living my life quite contrary to God's word.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember reaching a point where God told me in many ways that He had a purpose for me. He had a plan for me. And He wanted to cut out all the toxic stuff out of my life.
All the clutter.
Get me out of a toxic relationship, the entire works. And I was fighting with Him for a long time. And it came to a point where He told me He's going to, the time of Him having His protection over me,
Yes.
it was over.
Mm-hmm.
So I needed to come back. And it even went to the point of me still fighting Him and Him telling me I will get embarrassed.
Yeah.
You know, it will reach to that point. And then I started to really, think, maybe I should really change my life.
So how that was for you? Was it a struggle? Because having to deal with our fleshly desires and now having to become separated from that, walking in total obedience to God.
It was a struggle. It was like, God, I'm not ready yet. I now start to play carnival. I'm not ready. And the fact that I didn't have the protection,
yes, that
bothered
you.
me.
Yes.
It bothered me. Because, something about knowing that you have a little bit of grace in your life,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of play the fool sometimes. But in some ways you're a bit protected, God watching over you. But the fact that it went to the point where is either
you heard His voice,
shape up,
yes,
or ship out. And Dion, we were friends. And I remember at that point going through so much of phases and telling him, bouncing it off of Dion that, I want to change my life. And he as well was searching at that time spiritually. And one day I told him, I think we're going to take that step. I remember him actually wanting to, in his searching, he wanted to buy a Quran. And I was like, partners, me and you,
we're not on the same level.
We're not the same page if you're buying a Quran. We're not searching that way. If we searching, we going the right way to God. And
all right.
He never did.
So Dion, let's talk about you finding your way back to God, even with that relationship.
A bit of honesty, tying back into what Josanne just mentioned. Two things: her journey back to God and my timely arrival. And then speaking about me trying to incorporate my beliefs and spiritual strengths into different religious denominations and spiritual beliefs. I also was brought up for a major part of my formative life in church. That was in the 80s. And yeah, if I'm saying the 80s, yes, I'm in my 40s and that's fine.
You look good though.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Josanne.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was brought up in church, going to church, and went from going to church from just on a Sunday to probably midweek session, and then there was also a Friday night church as well. We started off in the People's Pentecostal in Scarborough. I think you know about that as well. Yeah, because I think
we were going to church at the same time.
And then we branched off into the Healing Tabernacle in Lambo. And I was very much into church when I was young, believing in. But as you grow and you become more exposed to certain things, you come off the beaten path and you start experiencing life. And then yes, I became very, not religious, but spiritually rebellious with respect to certain things. The foundation which was laid when I was young has been removed, and then I went to the UK and I was around so many different religious and spiritual denominations. I got a bit confused. One of my best friends in the UK, he's a Sikh, so they have their beliefs, and then I knew a lot of Muslims as well, Christians as well, and I respect, don't get me wrong, I want to clear this up, I respect all religious denominations,
Yes.
but my personal belief is my personal belief, and I don't think that people should infect other people or more so drown their beliefs. If that's your belief and that gives you hope, that's fine, but I know what I believe, or what I'm coming back to with respect to what I started off with. So I came back into Josanne's life right around that point when she started to become more spiritually aligned and heading back into church.
Yes.
And that was difficult because quite obviously she was cleaning up herself from a physical standpoint, and that's sort of what you call a fleshy standpoint. So I had to be very understanding
Yes.
and supportive with respect to where she's trying to head.
Let's back
ahead.
up a bit. I hear you talk now about from a fleshy standpoint.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that and
Yeah.
how it would have affected your relationship now, Josanne, trying to walk the street paths.
Exactly. So I had to reevaluate myself and also reevaluate my values with respect to what is important. If we're just looking at just a couple of months down the road, a couple of years, or a lifetime. So, and my take on things with respect to marriage were a bit skewed then, because I'm saying to myself, a commitment represents a certain level of marriage, and then therein there is a sort of a governmental side of things when you get married, when you sign the documents and things are made legally binding. So I was battling with that as well, because and being a man as well, let's be honest, you're trying to bring about excuse for things to run like we're in a marriage, we're not married, but I'm playing the game.
Yeah.
So I'm saying to you, listen, we're not married, but we committed to the same thing. But technically it's not. So I had to be very understanding. And at times, you have that constant mirror conversation, that constant self-evaluation, saying, listen, if you come into this person's life to support this person and give them a guiding hand and to usher them to that point where they are now strong to get back to a sense of normality, be that supporting her.
Yeah, because I can even remember, even during our counseling sessions, Josanne would have pinpointed there were times that you really wanted to ensure that, hey, my needs need to be satisfied. I see you blushing.
Yeah.
And Josanne was holding fast. Hey, Dion, not until we put on this ring, no ring, no thing. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, it caused problems. It caused problems, confrontation.
And it's just been,
Because quite obviously, I mean, and I'm speaking from being gender biased.
Yes.
We as men, we live out things through our eyes. And I remember I had a whole campaign trying to campaign of reasons I should be allowed to indulge.
Yes.
And she basically was saying, no, it's not going to happen. And ironically, Pastor sat here in this setting. A decision was made right here in that pool on the cusp of the Christmas of 2017. I had come to the end of my rope with respect to being supportive. And I said to her, Josanne, listen, 2018 is not going to, I'm not going to be there to support your journey anymore. Right here, I was sat in the ledge there because I think I've given her enough time to grow and to mature and to recognize that I wasn't just in your life for any fleeting moment. I wasn't a whim. I was here for quite some time, but quite some time is relative, but long enough by my standards.
Yes.
And I said, Josanne, listen, I need to move on. I need to solidify certain things in my life so that I would be able to be more creative from a business standpoint, because I wanted to cement and more so create some form of stability with respect to myself from an emotional standpoint. And you are keeping that back.
Oh.
She gave me this weird sort of a look as if, I hear you. Like, all right, no problem. But she knew I was serious.
Yeah.
So I was about to walk away from. I mentioned it before, as I said, in 2017, I had a campaign for myself. So I'll probably be threatening in that sense. I'll walk away. But she knew I wasn't serious. But at that point,
You were
she
serious.
recognized, you know what, this is serious. And probably I need to reevaluate from a time standpoint. Probably we coming to a point where we could probably cement things and make things more, start making some form of progression with respect to a couple going forward and spending a lifetime. As I mentioned last week before, as I said, I do things differently coming out of being in 40, me in my 40s. I see things differently. I'm very much more calculative and things must gel. They must synchronize with where I want to go, but also it's not only about me. It's not narcissistic at all. So you have to also compensate and also be aware of what the other side, the other person is trying to accomplish and where they're trying to head. But I believe in having time constraints. I think right there at that point I recognize, you know what? Enough is enough.
So Josanne, eventually you made a decision.
Yeah. He campaigned well, you know. The entire 2017 was a campaign well. And you know, I was at the point of I need time to figure it out. You know? And he was so serious, which was so different from what I was used to.
Still, yeah.
You know, and you're battling emotionally, you're battling physically, you're battling with the Lord, like, is this what
you want for me?
You want for me? You're sure about this? I never planned on really and truly getting married. I never planned on it. It was not at any point
So
in
what
my life.
changed your mind?
Dion changed my mind. You know, sometimes your point of view is skewed based on your experiences. And based on, I guess, when you look around at the negative relationships around. But when Dion came into my life, he as well was not impressed with many of the things I was doing.
And what about you? Were you? Or you knew that you needed to change?
I knew that I needed to change, but when we were friends, you know, it was bouncing all kind of crazy stuff off of him, and he wasn't impressed at all. He was like,
I need somebody serious.
At that point he told me, you know, all you need is love. And I used to watch him like, okay. You know, he had a totally different perspective on my wrongdoings, but he was able to look past my imperfections.
All right, so how has God transformed your life and your marriage now that you have found your way back to God? How has He transformed your marriage, one, and how has coming to Sanctuary of Praise as your pastor, how it has transformed you as an individual?
Well, let me start with the second question, because coming to Sanctuary of Praise, I remember one morning we had made up our minds we were going to go to church for the first time together on Sunday, but we didn't really know where we were going. And we came to the end of the road and we were like, I wasn't sure exactly which church to go to, but I knew you were up the road.
But this was in finding your way back,
Yeah.
right? So this is your first move.
First move.
Right.
So eventually I said, all right, with my Pastor Sonia. We just went, he just followed my lead, and we went there. Church was moving. I felt as if it was the right move. It was welcoming. Because usually I had a bit of a mental block against church. You know, church people can't deal with them. You know, but I was very comfortable when I came, and when I went, you know, the Lord was like, "You'll be here." I said, "Okay, here we go." I guess the journey has begun back to church, and from since then to now, it has been a lot of growth and development in my life. We could see through the timelines,
Yes.
that the Lord actually has been fulfilling His promises of taking care of me and pushing the purposes that He has for my life, and under your guidance.
Yeah.
In terms of what church has done for my marriage, now that I've come back to church and we were actually able to lay the foundation of our relationship and our marriage on Christ.
Yes.
We had a lot different principles and values. But I changed a lot of my values because my value system was very skewed. I remember the Lord working on me in terms of work on your thoughts, work on your words, and all these things will work on your deeds, right? Stop thinking negatively, start thinking positively. I started to read my Bible, read different books, listen to TV Jakes, and listening to, you're
Things that
changing
will
your
be able to
environment,
develop
you're
and
bringing
build
in
you spiritually.
yeah,
yes.
you're bringing in a more spiritual information to start to build you up. And I mean, I even started working on like the positive aspects of your marriage. What are the things I could do to sustain my marriage, to keep my marriage going, to keep it alive, to keep it fresh? How to treat your husband? Because remember, I never planned on getting married, so it was all new for me. I had a lot of maturity and growth to do.
Okay.
Dion, he has a lot more experience. He was married previously, and so I think he also came in with a bit more experience on knowing what to expect or what he wanted out of a marriage, and I was just trying to figure it out. And so far it's been great.
Dion, let's talk about that.
Spiritually, coming back into church and coming back into church via Sanctuary of Praise. Straight away, I got there, and yes, the comfort was there. But also, I recognized that I've been out of church, so I didn't even know any of the new songs. Because when I was in church, the songs we were singing then and the songs we're singing now, it's totally different. But what I always liked about you is there is no blame game taking place. There is no your tattoos, your earrings. And as we got to know each other, I admitted certain things you respect to certain values that I have and certain things that I would do as a person that I think is not pleasing to God. And you said to me, listen, God will sort that out. You'll get your own personal conviction.
Yes.
I'm not here to try to stand out of you because that is not my place. And that just allowed me to let my hair down and just, be more spiritually open to the idea of being incorporated into a religious organization, if I may say that. And then when we started going through the sessions where we meet on a one-on-one basis, and I think I gained more with the one-on-ones as opposed to the me and Josan, the three of us being at the same time, because I got a chance to open up. And I also got a chance to recognize that I'm not crazy. Meaning, because people like to try to make the other person, when they're not in agreement with what you are saying, because they believe that they have the monopoly on what is right and what is wrong, that your views are skewed and more so not socially acceptable. And you need to understand, I understand where you're coming from. But that could be said from a psychological standpoint where you probably have psychological training, but I recognize it's really coming from the heart, and then you will bring about a life experience when you actually go back into your life. You recognize, you know what, this is commonplace, meaning this trend of it's normal.
It's normal.
So I started to feel welcome and accepted and not feel disconnected socially, because I feel that way a lot. I consider myself to be a loner. I'm a sort of a solo type of guy. And that's why I'm always saying, I have one basic saying. All I need is one person by my side. I don't need a whole team of people, entourage of people to support me. Just one.
Yes.
And I'm good.
And you have
and this
your wife.
is my one.
And you have God as your
exactly
guide.
So the thing about it is, and I'm getting to that where God is now saying, listen, you want your one? I'll give you your one. So, and I am a personal believer in the leave and cleave. And I think sometimes we touch on something very briefly and come back straight back onto the point of the conversation. And I think sometimes parents need to understand when you make a strong young man that has turned into a mature man and I'm into my 40s now, he will leave. And when you see him cleaving, you're supposed to celebrate in that success, which means you have done your job.
Yes.
Because when my sons get grown and my daughter as well, but more so my sons because they more purport that, leave.
There comes a time when you have to leave.
That's right.
But also, even from the level of a pastor, I bought my values as to how I shepherd my church based on my experiences. I know that the call of God would have been upon my life for a very long time. And I prepared myself. But even from the masses on the outside, persons look at your exterior. They look at the personality and they judge you by what they see, not what they know actually about you. Because they just didn't take time to know and understand. And I would have faced a lot of rejection, a lot of ostracizing and criticism, condemnation. I think there were persons who thought I wasn't called for this. And as along the journey, I went to Bible school and I was ordained. That itself also had its problems, because there were persons who thought that this was just a thing because she's eloquent.
Yeah,
so she could just let it give work with no anointing. But I've come by to let people know that I'm anointed and I'm appointed for such a time as this. So when we started the church, I told the Lord, this ministry that you have blessed me with, it is not a church for the church. It is a church for the unchurched, the unloved, those who are hurt and abused. So I understand what is my purpose. So when you came through the doors, I knew exactly that I had to accept you just the way that you all are. And so to everyone that comes to Sanctuary of Praise, whether you're tattooed, whether you have earrings, whether you might not be at the place where you're supposed to be, the Bible says, judge not. Judge not. And sometimes we want to label because of what we see, but man looks at the outward. God says, I'm about relationship. And sometimes even as Christians, we portray to be that we are all right. But when the lights are down low, and when you're behind the scenes and there's no one looking at you, then you act, you behave in such a way that you ask yourself, am I Christian? But in the eyes of people, you portray that. And what I would have done, even with you and all the other persons that would have come through our doors, is to accept them and see them as God sees them. And just as God himself would have gone to the bars and sit and line with the prostitutes and all that, and just because of the love that he would have shown to them, it would have won their hearts and it would have caused their lives to be transformed. So too, you are just an example of, as God has called us as pastors to serve. And I am so pleased with your progress and being your pastor. Even while you were you're getting baptized, you and your wife. I remember that I said, listen, you're doing this together. Two shall become one. They say, Pastor, I have a little struggling. I say, you're going down. You're going down. Because at the end of the day, the Holy Spirit is the one that does the makeover. And as we grow, you realize that the Holy Spirit transforms us. We are convicted along the way. So why condemn? Why hold back on allowing persons to fulfill their purpose? And so I'm so pleased with your progress. But let's talk a bit about commitment, because today is love and marriage and bedroom. So let's talk a bit about commitment to vows, because there are a lot of young men out there and persons who are not really holding on to, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer. Let's talk about that commitment, because we like to run from commitment. Dion.
I think we live in an era of instant gratification where people think that they're entitled to everything, whether it be at the workplace, in a relationship, and just generally speaking, people don't want to work hard for things. And I think I have fallen victim to that as well, where we think that because sufficient time has elapsed with a particular person, you and that person belong. And I've made errors in that, like several errors, where you're thinking, you know what, I'm doing it for quite some time, so you know what, yeah, why not? And sometimes that elements of why not, or not giving things, are not enough comprehensive thought, and not making an informed decision. I've made a lot of mistakes in life. And that's why, Joe, I can say I come from, and I speak from a mature standpoint and a more experienced standpoint, because yes, I've made a lot of mistakes. So experience from my standpoint is the mistakes that I've made in life. So when I'm guiding her accordingly, I'm saying, listen, do this, or I think we shouldn't do this, because at the end of the day, I've bumped my head a couple of times doing that said thing. So, but in relationships or leading up to a marriage, there's a balancing act, a balancing game being played, and there's a pulling on and tugging, sometimes more pulling than tugging, between the gender forces, where you're having a male and female clashing for the right, who wants to sit in the king's chair. Mm-hmm. Notice what I said, the king's chair. Yeah. And by right, from a gender standpoint, it belongs to a man. Yeah. So right there, it starts off being imbalanced. And I want to touch on something, and I want people to listen exactly to what I'm about to say. Women have been campaigning for decades now about being equal with men. Mm-hmm. You're campaigning with the wrong manifesto. Yeah. You shouldn't be campaigning to be equal with men, but to be treated equal. Yes. Tell man. Mm-hmm. Because you are not my equal, because physically we supersede you. And sometimes, I mean, there's a back and forth with this, which gender more intellectually inclined. And that is something I won't touch, because that open a whole kind of world. Yeah, next question. Yes, but understand, ask for the same treatment, not to be considered equal. And I think you will get further in that campaign. Yes. Exactly. Yes. So if my wife says, "Don't hear what? I may not be your equal, but I think I should be treated equally to you." Mm-hmm. Right there, you have won my heart. I was like, love, no problem. Mm-hmm. So you understand who is in charge, and the in chargeship is not domination.
No, because you see, some women also had a Russian roulette approach. That if it's not this way, then it's nothing at all.
That's it.
And then they start to hold back.
And that is what I want to get to, Pastor. So right there, the woman starts to play with her cards. Her cards being dealt. Mm-hmm. So in the relationship, we're going to use leverage.
Yeah, talk to me.
And the leverage goes straight back by default to sexual leverage.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
And then you bring about sexual tension. And then you bring about sexual frustration. And then the man, being the logical one, decides, you know what? If I choose you, singly you're going to make me sexually frustrated. So I'm going to run the numbers. So at any given point in time, if you are not sexually obliged to reciprocate copulative love to me, I'll get it elsewhere. Yeah. Because I run in my numbers.
And that is why we're having so much problems in marriages.
So my advice to women, don't leave men sexually frustrated. You're asking for problems. And people need to understand by default the way men operate and the way we work internally. Do not try to impose us or to approach us only from an emotional standpoint, because we don't work like that. We don't communicate like that. Don't say to me, I want you to carry a particular function, or else you'll be sexually deprived for the next couple of months. You're setting up a war within the relationship. So you have said that to me, and now I'm going to prepare for what you just said, because you're not going to leave me sexually deprived and frustrated.
Yes, and what we need also to understand that when God created sex, it wasn't just for procreation.
No.
Right? It was also for enjoyment. It was also so that the couple or the partner, the marriage can be well lit, and you can have that harmony and that love.
So.
And that's what we are seeing a lot of person, because sex is a thing also beside good. If you don't have good communication, beside that, we wait for the time to bond. We wait, and as I was saying, there are some husbands and wives that living as brothers and sisters. When we started, it was whole week. Talk Jones, and don't look at me. Whole week. Then you boil along to Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And all of a sudden now you're just on a weekend. Weekend is your day. And eventually when things not going 2, 3, 4 months, persons are starved. And then you realize that there is a breakdown. So Josanne, let's talk a bit about how you would show your husband that you love him. And let's talk about that love thing. Let's talk about, because it have some women, right? I'm not talking about myself, that they need to know that they should keep this thing fresh. They keep the fire blazing. And for some women, we have to know how to keep the marriage alive. It's not about what you do, it's how you do it. The smooches, the love notes, the what you put on to go to bed. Some of us still pulling up with her slip over here and going in with bed. You have your knee pain, you're rubbing with Ben juice balm, by the time you come, your husband come in, you tie up your head, you talk to me, you have belly fall over, by the time your husband come in your bed, he don't have anything to entice him. Where the real people? Just give me an amen. And in light of that, he lie down next to a medicine kit. Right? And in light of that, sometimes the same clothes that you need your flower in, you're so tired, you go and lie down in your bed and your husband wants to smell some fragrance. You need to be in your kitchen in your shorts. Where are you?
In your underwear.
Hey, slap, you drop your pot cloth and you bend over. And he said, Josanne, don't do me that.
Yeah.
These are some of the things that keep the marriage fresh and alive. Let's talk about that, because Brother Minister Kima have his hand full.
This for married people,
Only.
This is for married people. Let me put that out there. Right. This is not for the single people to go and practice.
No.
Right?
We talk about singleness in yes?
Find the right man, find the right woman, and practice it.
Yes. So let's talk.
I don't know if some people, when they get, at least in the church especially, I find as if some women get a little religious and they're too spiritual.
Yes.
Even from a sexual standpoint. They need to put that away. Right? Find out, you're with this man, you're with this woman for the longest while. You must take some time to figure out what they like, what intrigues them, what turns them on, what turns them off.
I like that. What turns them off?
What turns them off?
And Josanne, let me pause a little. I think even in the bedroom, you're exciting me here. I believe even in the bedroom, even when it comes to sex, I believe we should have dialogue, Dion. What do you like? What are your preferences? What turns you on? Some men talking, women is right through. She batting, she is man. You understand? Not even knowing that when you do that, you're turning me off. I think the love language is something also that must be developed, because when you touch a spot, you get a ooh and a ah. So talk to me.
Yeah,
I like this
that.
session.
Yeah. So yes, even as you're learning the person,
Yes.
like they say, you're learning the language, and sometimes you would have come out of experiences or past relationships, and something could have worked for that person, and it may not work for the person that you're with. So it's all about figuring out now, and you're creating that language between yourselves. So both of you know right away, this is what we create here, this working for us, this is what we like, right? You may try something and you're looking for the feedback from
And
the
you ain't
person.
getting nothing.
If you know you ain't getting nothing,
Salt.
is either try a different angle. Try something different, because you want to know that whatever you're doing is
Getting a good
person,
response. Yes.
as well, do spontaneous stuff. Women, keep yourself well. Lingerie, men love it. Right? Invest in some lingerie, some sexy stuff. As Pastor say, cooking some food, you pour on something surprising when you come downstairs for your food, you see you looking
Eating
real
all.
sexy. Yet.
Whether your food had too much salt or not, baby, I love
He
you.
might not even eat the food.
He waiting for you.
Else. You understand? Check your husband, check your wife in work. Tantalize them.
Yes.
Sometimes put on something sexy, or you just pass and check in on him, you tantalize him, you send him some, tease him up.
Yeah.
Send him some notes on his phone. Send him fall in love. No.
Dion, you're blushing.
When he comes through the door, he must see you and jump.
Yes,
You understand?
I could tell. I remember even on special occasions, I would rent a villa, and I would ensure I have petals from the entrance, come straight into Kima, just follow the trail. When you come in, I'm all yours. You know, so you don't have to have money to make the thing nice. You could even use what you have in your home to spice this thing up.
And as well, you want to keep the intimacy. Even not everything as well is only sexual.
Yes.
So you want to keep your relationship with your spouse very intimate. And I know, yes, life gets very busy, especially when you have children. So you have to be mindful that you're actually making time. Same way you make time for everything else, you're making time for your spouse.
Yes, for successful marriage.
No matter what you have a responsibility, even as the wife. Yes, women tend to use themselves as leverage, but we have a responsibility to satisfy our spouses or husbands. And yes, men are more sexual most times than women. So I mean, for me, it's not very hard to please them. Men love their belly, they love sex, you understand, and they love to feel respected. If you could get those three things done, you're on a good path.
I like that. Satisfying them, food, as well as sexually,
and respecting them.
And I like the word respect. And sometimes people think that it is 2 minus 1, and you expect your husband to give in and treat you royal. Yeah, Dion, just jump in a little bit now. Let's talk about this.
Those 3 things there that she mentioned in the end. People, you hear lots of people say it, especially men. Men are simple creatures. We easy to work out. We give our tendencies and what we like away very readily. But with respect to a woman, and I think guys, as men, we need to make mental notes of what a woman would like and dislike, and try things out. And you're creating a mental sort of a manual for the woman, so you know what to do when, and not going there with that sort of a macho behavior where you know what you're doing. Ask a question, because sometimes what would have pleased a woman in a previous relationship that turned off to this particular woman, and you can't try to impose on that woman what you think you were good at in that particular relationship in this relationship, because it might be a turn off. So you need to be able to tweak and be able to be very spontaneous in your sexual correlation with your wife or your spouse. And as I said, for us, we get along quite well. We joke around a lot. So things
There's
are
a lot of humor.
a lot.
Keep it light.
Yeah. So basically, we have 2 sides. It's either we're doing business or it's kicks.
Yeah, when we play, we play. When
Yeah,
we're working.
that's right. And for me, because of how I am built as a person, because I suffer from anxiety, that works very well. So that will take the edge off of the day or what I'm going through from that anxious standpoint. It should just calm me down and it's fine.
Wow.
Because when that anxiety gets out of control, it will snowball, and it can actually be very disruptive and dangerous for any relationship.
Yeah, I like that. And even as you're talking, I am just reflecting, even in my marriage, we have that humor. Even though we are pastors, we know when to laugh, we know when to have devotion, we know when it's sex time and it's time to rock each other's world.
That's right.
We know when it's time, if you have a hard day, where you have your oils and you rub each other back. My husband works he works hard. So I know when I see he is lying on his bed, it's time for a shoulder massage. And while I'm massaging, I will pray through, God, strengthen these muscles, strengthen these feet, strengthen these, Lord, strengthen his thinking capacity. God, strengthen every organ so that it would be able to function. I ain't leaving out no parts. So you need to know that is a whole thing you're dealing with, and it makes your partner feel really good when you can be able to express yourself and show that love and that care. But now is the lockdown time, and there are a lot of marriages kind of stiff right now because we're not accustomed being in the house all the time. Josanne, you seem like you have this thing down pat. What are some of the tips that you would want to leave with some of these married ladies, and I'll come to Dion. I think he has something in his heart that they will be able to share with these women what we can do during this time, because ideas are running out.
During this time, well, I mean, for me, I can't say anything very, very out of the box or special, because Diana and I are always, I think we are always actively trying to make sure that our marriage is never falling below standard. But what I would say is to keep your marriage, not only from a sexual standpoint, just to keep your marriage fresh and alive. Some recommendations: get involved in each other's hobbies, in each other's interests, because sometimes one person is involved in something, the other person involved in something else, and you start to grow apart.
Yes.
You no longer have anything to talk about. You don't share the same interests, unless it's that bedroom time. And then you have tension now when you're in the bedroom, because I don't really talk to you. I don't really.
We're just getting down to
Yeah,
business.
we're just doing this for doing this sake. And you don't want to reach to that point. So like, I play tennis. Dion decided I'm gonna learn to play tennis too. So
You see,
I could play tennis with my family.
Nice,
Right?
beautiful.
Let's say a spouse is doing a course, and you're seeing them heading on a path where they're gonna
Elevation.
go and elevate yourself. Find something to do. You understand? Send each other stuff to talk about, because all these things help.
Yeah.
It helps to keep your marriage together, that you all have things to debate, to talk about. You could have game night in your house with your children. You could have game night with yourself. There, truth or there with yourselves, right? Dare each other to do some out of the box stuff at home. You'll put on some music, ladies, sometimes, and it don't have to be hallelujah
No,
music.
dance.
Put on some music and flex. Your husband a nice time.
Yeah.
You understand?
Dion?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, Josanne.
Yeah.
Because you see, outside of church, some people think that when it's time to get it on, and it's a who's a ta. No, I wanna let's get it on. I want that. So we have to know where to draw the line. So we have to. Dion, you were saying something.
Yeah, very important for relationships to blossom, and I think sometimes we take it for granted. You see that word comfort. You need to be comfortable with your partner, and be yourself. It's like we just came off of a particular training course there, and one of the last points mentioned yesterday afternoon was people lying on an interview and giving you responses by default. So you work hard, yes. You'll be on time, yes. So I bring it back home to what we're speaking about now. So in a relationship, you're selling the woman selling the man dreams with respect to what is anticipated, what they want to hear, and then when you're actually in the relationship, you can't execute. So there and now, we're having problems because we can't spend time, because who I thought you were, you're not, and you're not willing to change. And by extension, you shouldn't have to change, because at the end of the day, if you are that particular type of person and I am not interested in that particular kind of person, we should not be together in the first place, because we don't gel, we don't match. So people are always trying to be impressionists. Guys out there giving impressions of having millions of dollars when you hardly have a dollar. So you want a wife that you can't afford. And what I'm saying, not to just shower the woman with treats and gifts. No, it's a matter of being able to afford her and her family, because that's where it's supposed to be going. So there's a lot of lies being told, and there's a lot of deception a woman will say, you know what, she's very much sexually involved. She doesn't mind satisfying a man on a regular basis, and then when you actually get into the relationship, she ends up reneging all the time.
Okay. So Joanne, let's talk. Do you have anything that you wanna do with your husband today? That would send a love vibe, a love signal. What do you have? I would send notes to Kima. And what would you do at times?
Well, this month is actually our anniversary month, and Father's Day is coming up soon. And my husband he's not only a great husband, he's a great father. But I decided today that I'm going to give him some reasons why I love him.
I like that.
And until our anniversary, every day, take out a note and be reminded of why I love you and how much I love you.
That's very creative. So we could start with one today.
Yes, we could start with one.
Take out one, dear. It's beautiful. And these are just some of the ways that, wives and husbands can really appreciate and keep the fire alive in their relationship. Wow. Oh, Dion just said, wow.
I can actually read this out.
Go ahead.
I love the way you have adopted my son and taken up the responsibility of nurturing her as your own. And that is big for me. And let me tell you why.
Dion, you're going a little low. It seems like you're getting teary.
Yeah. Because
yes, I'm feeling it.
That for a guy coming into a relationship with a woman who has a son or a daughter, it's the responsibility of the mother to usher the responsibility of the father-son relationship. Usher it, introduce it, and let it go. A lot of people want the man, but they don't want the man to be the parent of their child. And Josan, from day one, always allowed me to mentor Jason. And that's very important because I've seen growth. I remember the first time I met him, he was a bit out of sorts. And to date, Jason is a lovely young man.
Yeah, I can attest to that.
Yeah, he has grown in terms of his values, in terms of being respectful. He's just, and the thing about it is what is very important now, even more so because we have a young son who looks up to Jason.
Yes.
And they have a beautiful relationship.
So what advice would you give to young men? Because I'm sure even people looking on or couples looking on, they would have never known or knew that Josan would have come into this relationship with a child.
Yes,
I think they thought that this was heaven. It was heavenly, a match in heaven. And I didn't even believe that there's a couple coming with children or a child from a different relationship. And even how did you treat with for those persons who are looking on and having problems with even accepting a child from another relationship because there are a lot of breakdowns in families with regards to that. What do you like to encourage persons?
That is low. That is a spineless man, because at the end of the day, I have a daughter as well. She resides in the UK. She's in London, and Josan has never met my daughter. We're working on that. But you need to understand that a child is a blessing.
Yes.
And if a woman or a man is willing to share that child, that blessing with you, you are important. And you need to understand the value that woman or that man has placed with respect to allowing you to be part of that child's life. But the important thing is, allow that person to impart good values onto that child. Because it's not the first time I've been in a situation where, and now I've stopped using the word stepdad.
Yes.
Because that brings about a bit of you're drawing a line in the sand.
That's my son.
That's my son. So he's actually in the advantageous position where he has several dads. So and that's good, and that's fair. So you have 2 dads, 3 dads as a matter of fact, because 3 guys basically mentor him.
Yes.
So the woman or the man needs to understand your role and do not shy away from that responsibility. And I make sure in treating both of them equally. Jason is 10, so he's at that point where I'm toughening him, I'm tempering him, and making sure he grows up into a strong young man.
Yes.
So we're moving into having tough conversations, because at the end of the day, I want to put a good product out there. And guys need to understand, you can't love the woman and try to corner the child, meaning put the child on a shelf. Or just as how, you know what, you're gonna create a separation. Because for me initially there was that, because I was trying to integrate, and then Josan worked hard at it, me as well, together, and we had a couple of sessions about that.
Yes.
So things have sorted itself
about
out.
You all, I was always beside you and your devotion with God. I love the respect that you would have given to me as your pastor when it comes to your marriage, sometimes making decisions, even going into that particular role with fathering and ensuring. I remember I came home and we had a healthy discussion as a family, inclusive of your son, you know, and it is really, 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 really heartening to see that you all always sought counsel, and not just counsel, right? Counsel. And I'm really pleased that you all would have trusted me with even your life, so that you all can make informed choices. And you're just one of my success stories, you know. We want to celebrate just a bit. Today is a day of celebration, just showing love and appreciation. But Josan and Dion, I think before we even go to having dinner and lifting a toast, tell me, I think you all owe it to your parents. I just felt that in my spirit, because I think that they too would have done a lot in mentoring, as you would have said, you know, Josan. Just share a bit on, you know, background, and just, I would always say to my mom anytime I see her, I really thank you. Sometimes I didn't understand, you know, but it was worth it. And now they are alive and around to see, even though I messed up, that I was able not to stay down, but I used my mistakes as a stepping stone, and it launched me and propelled me into greatness. And so you're just a fraction of that. Talk about that.
Okay, well, my mom and my stepfather, they play a very integral role in my life, and our life, my extended
Yes.
life. They've been there from the beginning, always giving us very good counsel, and even before I got to the point of saying yes to Dion, just from a relationship standpoint, I remember going back and forth as well with them about where Dion, where his head was, and they knowing that I'm coming from a much more immature place and a much more mischievous place and trying to change. You know, they always had some very healthy inputs. As I said last week, you know, they always spoke about not just thinking about your present you or your present relationship, and always looking down the road, because your values are gonna, it's supposed to change as we get older. It's supposed to grow, it's supposed to mature, it's supposed to get better. We're supposed to adopt better principles in your life and within your marriage. One thing that I've learned, just I wanted to touch on, one thing I've learned in my short journey with Christ throughout this marriage is the biblical principle of your words, your thoughts, your deeds. It's a principle, and it's not just for us to apply just to ourselves from a spiritual standpoint. Because once you leave and cleave and you become one with somebody else, technically you're one with this person. And the words, thoughts, and deeds also matter. Because what I am thinking about my husband and what I am saying to my husband is equally as important as how I treat my husband or what I do for my husband. Because if there's a mismatch, something is wrong. If I'm having negative thoughts about my husband, the way I treat him will never be up to par.
Yes.
And if I am always speaking negatively to him, always throwing talk at him, always bringing up the past, always, nagging the guy.
Yeah, what happens there? Dion,
In
talk
one
about
word.
that, the effect that it would have on someone. Yeah?
Yeah,
Because there are a lot of persons in relationship
yeah,
where
yeah,
it's
yeah,
a nag, you know.
yeah.
You know,
And it's not,
talk down.
and you would say nag, but it goes even further, where you have that internal fight down, and so you're at war with. Just a general statement. You leave the house, you go out there to do battle, meaning to provide for your family, deal with day-to-day activities, deal with different personalities, deal with employees, customers, deadlines, and that type of thing. And you get back home and now you have to battle with your wife as well. So there's no sanctuary.
Yeah, no sanctuary. Yeah.
So you have nowhere to turn.
Yeah.
And I've been in that. And that is a dangerous, dark place to be. That can never breed or produce anything productive. And men, when you see them frequenting bars and stuff, and they're not coming home and they're with the boys and they're always cooking and they this and they that, they're running from something.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you need the peace. So if you know that woman gives you that peace, and I see people constantly on their WhatsApp status talking about, they're protecting their peace and they're all about peace. And I sometimes really want to ask myself if they really understand the importance of that and the true representation and translation of that, because that's what you're really clamoring for.
Yes.
When you get home, all right, they say leave your work at work. I mean, that's very difficult, but sometimes you just need that person to say, you know what, it's going to be okay. You don't want to get into the house and then your kettle have to whistle again because you're now being annoyed even further. So is that support network, that support value, those values going forward.
And even as we get ready to have dinner and for Joanne and yourself to recommit that love to each other, we just want to encourage marriages, persons on the outside, to understand that it's a journey, it is a process. It is being able to love, to support, to be able to be there for your partner every step of the way, not forgetting that God is the center of your marriage. You need to have that relationship. So I continue to declare God's blessings over all the marriages and your marriage. But before we go to have a toast, just stand now, look at your wife, hold hands now, get ready for that sit. Can they stand or sit? They that is sit? Yes, so turn around now, look at and you all are getting ready to celebrate anniversary, so just express your love to each other.
Understand?
Take your time,
Coming up to our second anniversary, I just want to say that. Thanks for being there, for being a lovely wife. And this may sound a bit over the top. Thanks for saving me. and God's richest blessing on your life. In Jesus' name.
Amen. So I declare the blessings of the Lord, the peace of God, prosperity and favor, longevity of life over you. May God continue to lead and guide you. May He continue to even bless your womb so that you all would have more children. So cheers. Cheers. Blessings upon you.